Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. Today, Baraheni joins me because Bryce Simon is out on vacation with the family. We're going to talk about the top 10 moves of the NBA offseason, and we're really excited to dive in and talk. We're really excited to kind of jump into this and draft our favorite moves of the offseason. We thought that would be a fun way to do it. But first, let's hit the music.
They do have a timeout. Decide not to use it. Way downtown.
Bang! Bang! What's this gonna be? Wow! Are you kidding me?
Hello and welcome to the Game Theory Podcast. I'm your host, Sam Vecenie. But if you watch the tape, what you will see completely orchestrated this game. S, what's going on, man?
What's up? What's up? You know what? I hadn't seen that intro in a while. That's awesome. That's cool.
It's pretty good. Shout out our old producer, Dave Krapinski, for building that thing and getting that thing made. Nice. Yes, I'm very happy to have you here. It's funny. We've tried for 6 months now, probably, to find the little landing spot where it would make the most sense for you to come in. And I'm so glad this is a GMAC produced decision here to make this happen. And GMAC brought it up and I was like, yes, that's it. That's the move. Bryce is out. Let's make sure and get S in the mix here. This is really smart. How's it going, man? I'm glad we just podcasted for the first time together at Summer League. We did it on the Athletic NBA show, which is what you regularly host for the Athletic.
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you here. I'm excited to talk through things with you.
Well, dude, I appreciate you having me on. It was good to connect with you in Vegas. It was good to do the pods and whatnot, that cool studio setup that they have. But yeah, we've been trying to set this up for a while, so I'm glad that we can do it. Also, it's kind of dog days of the off season now, so we get a chance to kind of overthink and maybe rethink some things that happened over the last couple of months, which is the fun part about this part of the year,
I mean, the issue is that so we're live on YouTube, as we always are for these things. Go subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're sitting at a solid 58,000 subscribers right now. We appreciate you guys immensely for rocking with us. Go hit the subscribe button over on YouTube. But the problem is that, holy shit, do I look washed out and pale right now? It's like 7 a.m. in the morning. Man, S looks great. The skin looks great. I'm sitting here.
Thank you.
I am so washed out. It's a wild ride, but we'll get through it. S, we're going to talk about offseason moves today.
Yeah.
I'm excited to do it. Bryce and I have obviously broken down offseason moves throughout the entirety of this offseason, but we haven't really slotted some of our favorites. I think people can probably guess based off of some of the things we've talked about over the course of, this last month or so since the offseason has really gotten started. But I'm excited to do this. The way that we structured this was we're going to do it in draft form. We are going to draft our 10 favorite offseason moves back and forth. I'll give you the first pick, second pick, whatever you want. I don't really care.
Mm-hmm.
But the way that I kind of explained this to S when we went through and did this kind of on the back end was we are allowed to come up with themes of offseason moves. So if you want to say the Denver Nuggets added depth, right?
Yeah.
They went out and they got Jonas Valanciunas. They went out and got Bruce Brown. They went out and got Tim Hardaway Jr. I'm okay with combining all of those things into one move.
Yeah.
But if you want to take the Cam Johnson for Michael Porter Jr. deal, that is kind of its own thing, even though those two things are connected irreparably in some ways, because doing the Cam Johnson deal allowed the Nuggets to be able to do those things. I do at least want to create just a slight separation there in terms of what the deals are. And if you were really excited, just kind of go through and talk about depth moves, talk about certain things. I'm okay with you combining a couple of things together here and there to be able to do that.
That makes sense to me. I will note that if I have one of those trades or moves in there and they are impacting another deal, it's part of where the ranking is, So just want to mention that's the only thing to kind of caveat there to the rankings and whatnot,
No, I love it. The second thing that I will say is, S's first question with this was, what do we do with draft picks and what do we do with draft night? Right. Yep. So what I told him was, we are excluding just any like draft pick, right? If it's just, the Mavericks got Cooper Flag at number 1 overall, that would probably be the best move anybody has made, right? So it can't just be a draft pick. Now, if it is a deal that happened on draft night, if it's a trade that happened on draft night in any way, shape, or form, that can be included in this. So I think that's kind of all of our ground rules here, right?
Yeah. No, that makes sense. I have no like real preference for going first, second, third, whatever. It doesn't matter to me. So if you want to go first, you can go first. Take the first thing off the board. Doesn't matter.
I'll give you the first pick. Yes, I'm good with this.
Yeah, the guest gets okay. All right, sounds good. I feel like this is a clear-cut one. Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets is the number 1 pick for me.
So I had Kevin Durant going to the Rockets at number 3 on my board.
Okay, glad we have a difference already. Nice.
It is probably the most momentous move that happened, I think.
Yeah.
The way that I thought about this was, I thought about it from like each specific team's perspective and tried to like think of like excess value that was derived from deals in some ways. KD at number 3 was a big deal for me. Why do you have Kevin Durant for, and I'll just list off the entire deal here. Kevin Durant for Jalen Green, Dylan Brooks, number 10 and number 59 in the 2025 NBA draft, 2 seconds in the 2026 NBA draft, and 2 seconds out into the 2030s.
Yeah. So the reason I have Kevin Durant here, number 1, the deal, and for what it's worth, Phoenix with where it was leverage wise, did an okay job with the trade. Like, it's not like they got absolutely fleeced. They still got the 10th overall pick. We'll see how good Kamal Malawach is. Jalen Green is clearly a player that they can maybe try and change trajectory wise. I thought he had a decent season last year generally. But to me, this comes down to the Houston Rockets added Kevin Durant. Like that's the simple part of this. I have some numbers here in terms of like the clutch differences. This Rockets team really struggled in the clutch last year. They really struggled in the fourth quarter last year. 18th in clutch offense, 16th in clutch net rating, 23rd in fourth quarter offense, 19th in fourth quarter net rating, 22nd in terms of half court offense.
Wow.
Kevin Durant is a guy who fits in immediately to what they need, right? And I get the age concerns. I get the injury concerns. All of those are valid questions. But for the cost and what this Rockets team is around KD, it's a near perfect fit. And what he provides offensively as a guy who can basically go and get them a bucket whenever they need to, I think that is a substantial upgrade to what Jalen Green was for this team during the playoffs. And not to mention, like, Dylan Brooks is a good 3-and-D wing player for them, but KD is no, chum defensively. Like, he's a very good defender when he wants to be as well. So, yeah, KD, number 1 for me.
Well, they have, I think there are a few different ways to look at this from like an asset perspective, right? Mm-hmm. To me, they solved an issue by trading from a position of strength is the biggest, I always try and think of it in terms of, okay, you're going out to get a superstar. How can you best acquire that superstar while maintaining your ability to contend?
Right.
And the Rockets have Amen Thompson, who I had as the best defensive player in the league this year. If you have a couple of other guys like Evan Mobley, I'll completely understand that. But I would have had Amen Thompson as the number 1 defensive player in the NBA this season.
Yep.
They have Tari Eason, who's a really, really high-level defender who I think can come in and eat minutes in that regard. They have enough bodies, and they go out and they get Dorian Finney-Smith, another 3-and-D wing, and I would imagine that they had like a pretty good sense that they had a real shot at Dorian when they did the Kevin Durant deal on draft night, just because that's the way those things work. they have a number of bodies that they can throw at players on the wing defensively to replace the Dillon Brooks value, right?
Yeah.
But getting off of the Jalen Green money and really, signing Jalen Green to that extension basically in order to deal him was something that could have gone very wrong, I think. And you see the Nets right now. Like, I think that they're somewhat worried about tying themselves to Cam Thomas too long because they're concerned about, okay, if we sign him to like a 4-year deal worth, $80 million or whatever, we might get kind of tied to that at the end of the day. But if we're not doing that, if we are, smart and we go shorter term, that deal's probably going to be movable. I think that that's what a lot of teams are kind of taking away from the Jalen Green of this all is that, okay, if it's a shorter term deal, it's going to be a little bit more easily moved. I think that deal could have gone so sideways, that extension. And just because Phoenix ended up deciding to move Kevin Durant, which was something that I think Houston's front office probably could have, foreseen at the end of the day. Like, the whole thing that they've done over the course of the last year is kind of short, the Phoenix front office, right? Between making that deal with Brooklyn that kind of made the Mikal Bridges deal possible because it gave Brooklyn its 2 picks back in order to go and get a bunch of future picks from the Phoenix Suns, right? So they're trying to short Phoenix. So I think that all of this played into a real strategy that for the Houston Rockets resulted in them upgrading Jalen Green with Kevin Durant. And that's a crazy, crazy, crazy thing to be able to do. And I think this is completely reasonable to have this at number 1. Like, I think this is something that makes total sense to have at number 1. They are now like a genuine title contender, in my opinion. And what I'm most excited to see is kind of their lineup flexibility. This is something I talk about all the time.
Absolutely.
Obviously.
Yeah.
Like, being able to figure out different ways to match up with your opponent is so critical. And Houston has the ability now to go big or small, depending on the situation. And they can go bigger than anybody, obviously, right? Yeah. With what they've found with the Steven Adams, Alperen Şengün thing. But now, instead of it being Jalen Green, you're going even more supersized, right? Like, you can go Amen Thompson, Kevin Durant, Steven Adams, and Alperen Şengün in that 2-3 zone that they love to play defensively. And that's just going to be absolutely crazy to deal with. Like, the way that all their limbs are going to be flying around, the way that, they're going to cover ground in that zone defensively just becomes even more high level, in my opinion, when they choose to. But now you can also go super small and skilled with Alperen at the 4, Alperen at the 5, Kevin Durant at the 4, Amen at the 3, and then like whatever else you want to put out there, right? You can put out Jabari Smith if you want to. You can go super, super small, like Jabari Smith at the 5, Kevin Durant at the 4, and then like Amen Thompson, Fred VanVleet. And if you want to go like Reed Shepherd or something like that, if Reed has it going, you can go Tari Eason if you want to go like super switchable, right?
Yeah.
They just have a lot of different ways to be able to match up with opponents now. And I think that that's ultimately why I think this is such a critical, impressive move from the Houston front office. But I'm glad that you did this smartly. You led with the fact that their end of game offense was just catastrophic throughout the course of the season. And that is ultimately what Kevin Durant really brings to the table here, is somebody who can go create his own shot.
Yeah, and to the point about the value thing that you mentioned earlier, they still are leveraging against the Suns. Like, they still have the Suns pick, I believe, in 2027, I want to say. Yeah, 2020 is the pick that they have, and then they have a swap rights in 2029. So they're still leveraging against Phoenix, which is going to play out well for them regardless, because of the way that Phoenix is just like heading towards a rebuild at some point in time. You know what I mean? The other aspect to this, like lineup wise, they can go ultra small, but we could maybe talk about this a little bit later too, if we want to address Dorian Finney-Smith, but the Lakers ran small ball units with DFS. The Rockets can ostensibly do the same, but Kevin Durant is basically your 5 in certain situations there. And to me, you think of what Fred VanVleet brings at the point of attack, what Men Thompson brings at the point of attack, what Tari Eason brings at the point of attack, having another guy in Kevin Durant who's just so long. I think that's one thing that gets underrated about what Kevin Durant can do defensively. He is just incredibly long. And
Yes.
like he can be able to get in the cookie jar, jump into passing lanes, use his length on the help side. And to me, next to Şengün, Adams, or if they want to go smaller, that line of versatility, like Sam, that was the calling card for OKC last year to win the championship, is how fluid they were, whether they wanted to go double big, whether they wanted to go Chet at the 5 or Hartenstein at the 5, whether they wanted to go ultra small. They just had so many options, and Houston now has a version of that. I guess the aspect, like this could all blow up in their faces if KD is not healthy, if KD is like, takes a step back, which I would be surprised at, just because of how good he was last year and how incredible he was to start the season for Phoenix too. I think he's going to still be a very, very good player. And that's a fine bet to a guy who's like a top 15 player all time. That's why it's number one above everything else. It's just, this was the biggest talent add from sheer upgrade wise. And you mentioned the Jalen Green part. That's a big part of it. Like, to their clutch offense woes, they relied on him heavily. They relied on Fred VanVleet like grenade balls to end games. And that can be okay for a team that's trying to be an interesting playoff team. But if you want to be a contender, you need a guy like Kevin Durant who can just go out and get you a bucket. He can do that,
Yeah. And they're going to get some internal improvement. Amen is going to be better next season. Reed Shepard's going to be better next season. Like, they have some young guys that will get better. Jabari,
totally.
Tari Eason, like, these guys are going to get better, I think. The Durant thing does kind of, eat into their depth a little bit, obviously. Played 35 games in 2021, 55 in 2022, 47 in 2023, 75 in 2024, and then last season played 62. I think you should probably expect Kevin Durant to miss 20 games at the end of the day, and they're going to have to figure out how to survive offensively in those 20 games that he misses. Maybe honestly, he won't. Maybe it'll be.
I was just going to say, like, they have the infrastructure there to be okay with him missing 20 games. Like, this is a team that was second in the West last year without Kevin Durant. Yes, of course, you add Jalen Green and Dylan Brooks, and like that matters, when you're playing the Wizards or Hornets or whoever in the regular season. But this is a team that can survive a stretch of 2 weeks, 3 weeks without KD. We got to pull out this, January stretch where we got to go, I don't know, 10-5 or whatever it is. But yeah, I think they can do it, to be honest with you.
Okay. Let's move on to my first pick here. So number one, we went Kevin Durant to the Houston Rockets. And number two, this is going to be a very obvious one for people who listen to the show.
Oh,
I don't even know that we need to dig super deep into it. The Atlanta Hawks acquire the New Orleans Pelicans first round pick in 2026 for the number 23 overall, for the number 13 overall pick. So it was the best. So the overall arching structure of this deal is Atlanta traded the number 13 pick on draft night to the New Orleans Pelicans in order for the Pelicans to take Derek Queen. And they got number 23. So they just slid down 10 spots. And then they got the best of Milwaukee and New Orleans first round picks in 2026. So I talked about this whenever this deal happened. I wrote this at The Athletic, so I don't have a problem saying it here. I've talked to 4 different teams right now that have the Pelicans in the bottom 5 next year. Right now in their internal, analytics models. Right. This deal has a chance to be catastrophic for the Pelicans. Maybe it won't be. Maybe it'll work itself out. Maybe it'll be okay in some way that I'm frankly not expecting. But it's just the Troy Weaver playbook to a T, leveraging the future to go get the now. And, this is from the Pelicans perspective, but we'll talk about it from why I love it so much from the Atlanta perspective in a second. But it's just the Troy Weaver playbook to a T. He did this when he got to Detroit. He drafted his point guard in Killian Hayes first, And then in the middle of the first round, he leveraged future pick to go get Isaiah Stewart. And by the way, what happened this time around? Leverages a future pick to go get Derek Queen, two undersized big men who are different, like very, very different in terms of skill sets, but loves his undersized bigs.
Yeah.
Troy Weaver loves the guys from the DMV, obviously. Goes out and gets Sadiq Bey, obviously was with the Wizards last year, goes out and gets Jordan Poole. Like, it's just so funny how, I mean, the funniest one is Hunter Dickinson on a two-way. Shout out DMV again. Like, it's just very, very funny how Troy Weaver coded this entire thing is from the Pelicans. But the reason this is at number 2 is because of the Hawks.
Yeah.
The Hawks get to reap the advantage of this. The Hawks get to have I mean, dude, like, this might be, because it's a best of, right?
It's so crazy. It's so crazy. I can't believe it.
You get the best of the Bucks or the Pelicans first rounder. Like, there is real downside for the Bucks as well.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to sit here and say, like, I think the Bucks are going to be bad. I don't think that at all. But if Giannis was to miss 40 games or something, that team wins 30 games next year, probably, right? Maybe less. If he misses 40, they might, like, really, really be in some trouble, I think.
Yeah.
So it's a genuinely insane decision from the Pelicans, but it is a remarkable piece of negotiation. At the very least, I mean, maybe it wasn't a crazy piece of negotiation. You know, maybe they just offered this best of pick and they were like, yeah, you know, we'll do it. Okay, cool. Great. But Atlanta, for them to only slide down 10 slots, I'm going to be honest with you, from what I know about, like, what Atlanta's, you know, draft thought process was before the draft, I think there's a non-zero chance. I don't know if they would have taken Asa Newell at number 13, but there is a chance they would have, from what I know. Like, they really liked Asa throughout the pre-draft process, like, quite a bit. They slide down 10 slots, maybe get the guy that they would have taken anyway at 13. At the very least, we'll say that they got a guy that was very high on their board at 13. I do feel comfortable saying that. And to do so, they get what might be a top 5 pick in 2026. It is an insane batshit decision to me. Yes.
I debated taking this number 1. Like, when you threw it to me to say, hey, what is your number 1?
It's number 1 on my board.
It's number 1 on your, it's number 2 for me. And the only reason I had it number 2 was just because, like, the weight of Kevin Durant being on the Rockets next year, impact wise, felt like it, like, imminently impacted the league bigger and more. I mean, you know, draft picks in general, there's always this kind of, like, it's a lottery for a reason. You don't know where that pick is going to land. Like, the Pelicans could end up with the 4th or 3rd best odds and still end up with the 6th or 7th pick. And maybe value wise, you look at it and say, okay, well, still, but you're still giving up a 6th or 7th pick next year. And I know you've already been looking at the 2026 draft and how awesome the top of that draft can potentially be. You're looking at potentially losing, I don't know, the 6th or 7th pick, 8th pick, whatever at worst, because this Pelicans team is not going to be good. You mentioned they were bottom 5 in some of the analytical tracking data for you know, the teams that you've talked to. Just betting wise, they are slated to be the 5th worst team in the NBA, that 31.5 wins on basically every sports betting book that you want to look at. The only team in the West that has a lower win total than them is the Utah Jazz. And I think that's another part to this. It's like, where are those wins going to come for New Orleans? if you're trying to say, well, hey, maybe this can be a play-in team. I don't see any world in which this team can make that pick look bad next year. Zion's going to miss a bunch of games just because at this point we have to bake in the fact that Zion is going to miss games. I don't see it. And to the Hawks point, I'm not necessarily sure, but I'm pretty high on what the Hawks can be next season. This is a good insurance for everything. For if Kristaps Porzingis is going to miss a bunch of games, Trae Young, who is entering basically a contract year. He has a player option in 26-27 for $49 million, but it's basically a contract year for him. If things go terribly, which is unlikely for the Hawks, in my opinion, but if things go terribly, you now have this pick that could be just a lifesaver for everything that you want to do moving forward as well, even if it doesn't include Trae Young, even if Kristaps Porzingis doesn't work out for you and it's not a healthy season. Like, worst case scenario, you now have potentially the number 1 overall pick. And it's just crazy to me that there was no protections on this. Not even a top 1 protection, not even a top 2 protection. Yeah. Just that's the part that's baffling. Yeah, I agree with you that this is right up there. I would have maybe had it 1 if I just thought about it a little bit longer.
And to be clear, like, it's not just Zion. Like, Trey Murphy, God love him. Like, he's one of my favorite players watching the NBA right now. Like, just so silky smooth, really sharp. Guy that, has missed 25 to 30 games each of the last 2 years. Herb Jones coming off of like a fairly serious like rotator cuff surgery, right? They have dudes that like they're really counting on. DeJounte Murray coming off an Achilles injury, like, is going to miss a substantial portion of the season, obviously. They have a lot of guys that like deal with injuries pretty regularly. Derek Queen already injured going into the season, right? So it's just really hard for me to foresee how this goes well. And again, kudos to the Hawks. They did an amazing job here being able to get this pick. And look, now we're sitting here, and if you're a Hawks fan, you're selling the Pelicans. And look, I mean, just in the conversations I had with teams even before this deal happened, before the draft, the conversations centered around, okay, who's going to be the first team that shorts the Joe Dumars, Troy Weaver Pelicans? Like that was literally like, but before the draft, I'm having these conversations just like, okay, who's going to be able to do this? Like, somebody's going to be able to do it. I kind of thought that the 76ers were probably in the best position to do so. Yeah. With the number 3 overall pick. Ultimately, they couldn't get it done, right? But
if I was like an opposing front office at this point, I would regularly call the Pelicans to see what else I could do, for like Trey Murphy or Herb Jones, who I know they extended and they like and they want to keep. But at this point,
so I can speak to that for what it's worth. I have talked to a few teams that called about Trey, and the price is like astronomical. Like they understand what they have. I won't say any details, but like the price tag is very high.
Yeah. Well, that makes sense too. Like that, we're probably going to get to a trade here in a second, but there are guys of Trey's caliber and position and archetype that go for multiple first round picks and players and swaps. And, like that's the level that they're looking for. That makes sense, especially when not everything else is going well for the Pelicans, unfortunately. Okay.
My goodness. Let's go to number 3.
Yeah. I debated which one of the following trade, because I have 2 trades here at 3 and 4. I kind of debated which one was a better move overall. And I think I landed at Cam Johnson to the Denver Nuggets here at number 3. And so do we want should the other? Do you want me to mention the other move? I'm kind of curious if I should mention the move or should I just leave? You know what? I'll leave it for you. It's all good. Okay, Cam Johnson. As you know, the deal is Michael Porter Jr. for Cam Johnson and in 2032 unprotected first via the Denver Nuggets. First of all, from a move perspective, this was what I was mentioning earlier when I said I'm looking at this in a vacuum, but also I can't help but look at the other things the Nuggets did, because that $17 million difference between Michael Porter Jr. and Cam Johnson created the opportunity for Denver to go out and trade for Jonas Valanciunas, to get Bruce Brown, to get Tim Hardaway Jr. It just allowed them to go and replenish their depth. So to me, that was it's something I had to consider when I ranked it as high as I did. But even just pure trade in a vacuum, Michael Porter Jr., Cam Johnson is a better player than Michael Porter Jr. And everything you look at from what the Nuggets need from that position, MPJ and Cam Johnson do similar things from that position. Great spot up shooters, good transition players. MPJ is obviously a little bit bigger. But I genuinely think like what Cam Johnson does as a smart cutter, as a guy who moves intuitively without the ball, who can do a little bit more with the ball than MPJ does. You know, he can actually dribble and put the ball down on the floor and create. I don't think the Nuggets will be relying on that heavily, but that is something that he can do more than Michael Porter Jr. That to me is what makes this as high of a deal, as one of the best offseason moves, is just the fact that they added that flexibility to be able to go out and get that depth. But also, this is a guy, Cam Johnson, 85th percentile on spot ups, like 89th percentile in transition, 81st percentile off screens. It's crazy because Synergy only has it that he had 35 cuts last season for Brooklyn, and that wasn't really his role. Like who was he cutting to get open for? But he's going to cut to get open for Nikola Jokic. So yeah, I just think it's an excellent fit for what they want from that position, and the flexibility was a big part of it too.
Was on my board. I had it like a little bit lower. I do like this deal a lot for Denver. I do like it a lot for Denver. I want to start there. I am a big fan of this, and I think that it is a sharp move. I always wonder if we overstate a little bit, and I'm not talking about you specifically. I'm talking about like kind of everybody that talks about basketball a little bit. The idea of like guys who can dribble and like, you know, play with the ball in their hands when they play for bad teams.
Yeah.
And I do think that Cam can do that for sure. Like I like the fact that he showed that he can do that in a secondary manner, but like he's never going to do that for this team. You know what I mean? It's just an option that's there, obviously. But a guy that averaged 19, 4, and 3, obviously, the thing that I think is the biggest value add that like very few people are talking about, Michael Porter Jr. was one of the worst passers is one of the worst passers in the NBA. Just point blank.
That's
right.
True.
That's just kind of the reality of who he is as a player. I'm sorry. What Cam Johnson is a passer and like quick decision maker, I think will really add to the flow of this offense in a real way. I'm not convinced that like Cam Johnson has more like offensive game than Michael Porter does in terms of like being able to create a shot like at a super high level. I think he's probably a little bit better in ball screens than what Porter is because of the passing ability. And I think he can like read the court a little bit better and like be able to get to where he needs to in terms of his spots. But like, I think it's a marginal advantage in terms of like shot creation, right? Like I think Michael can like actually do some of that stuff a little bit. He's particularly good at like taking advantage of mismatches. Like Cam can't really like elevate over the top of the dude. Like he's big and he's 6'8", but like he's not like jab stepping, elevating over the top, right? Like he just doesn't have that necessarily. I do think that where the value add comes in is that he is a much better passer, much better processor. I think he fits a little bit better with this offense in general that Jokic prefers to run, obviously, this like heavily motion-based scheme. I do think that the odds are that Johnson will probably be close to as good of a cutter as Michael Porter Jr. is. Porter's obviously bigger and thus like I think has a little bit more of a skill set at finishing at the basket than what Cam is. But I think Cam's like timing is probably going to be a little bit better than what Porter's was, especially once he gets the rhythm with Jokic and everything. Ultimately, I do like the defensive side is interesting. I guess I'll get this perspective from you as well. I think that there are matchups where like MPJ's flexibility just in terms of size and like a little bit of strength helps add to what Denver was able to do versus Cam, who's like more diligent off the ball, certainly than what Michael is. And I think like their overall team defense will probably be a little bit better with Cam. But like, I do wonder if like there are certain matchups, like I'm thinking about Houston specifically when I talk about this, like Houston's ability just to go like so big versus them. Like you could theoretically go like, you know, Alperin and Adams in the front court in order to try to slow down Jokic. And then you have KD and Amen kind of out on the perimeter to deal with like Aaron Gordon and Jamal and now Cam Johnson if you need it. Obviously, like we kind of assume Jokic will just like problem solve and figure it out. I do wonder if like Houston specifically is a team that's kind of like been built to counteract some of what makes Denver so special, maybe. But like these are champagne problems, right? But I think Denver is in a position where they should be thinking about the champagne problems a little bit. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, no, definitely. I think one of the questions about what the Denver has done generally in the offseason has to be how they match up with the rest of the West. And Houston is a big part of that problem just because they're so big. OKC is also huge. So the size factor is going to be something in the playoffs if they match up in a series. And you look at when you think of what Denver did against OKC in the playoffs and they ran that zone, size is a big part of playing any zone defense. Like, yes, Cam Johnson will be positionally better in a zone if they ever go to that zone. I wonder if they lean into it more next season. But I don't know. I think Michael Porter Jr., what he provided, and the rebounding is a factor here. Like just the size, a guy who can like crash the offensive glass for you, generally crash the defensive glass, close out possessions for you. I think that's important in what Michael Porter Jr. brought. But that is a valid question to have. It's like, is the marginal defensive stuff that MPJ can do just because he's 2.5 inches, 3 inches taller than Cam Johnson, is that a difference maker in a playoff series versus the Rockets or in a playoff series versus the Thunder? And you also think of the rest of the Nuggets depth, because again, it's hard to look at this in a vacuum. Like Bruce Brown, not a ton of size, solid point of attack defender when healthy, but like not a ton of size there. Tim Hardaway Jr., smaller player, not a plus defender, right? Jonas Valanciunas at his position, not a plus defender. And so how much does that depth play a factor into what they can be defensively when they don't necessarily have a ton of plus defenders on the floor? And now they've lost a little bit of size as well with the Cam Johnson and, Michael Porter Jr. swap.
We'll hit the pause there on Denver because my guess is that we will be coming back to that at some point here.
Yeah.
Okay. Number 4, I'm going to take Oklahoma City's extensions.
Nice.
So they extend Shea, obviously. Extending the MVP.
They are also on my list, by the way. Just want to mention that. They are also on the list. Yeah.
So they extend Shea. Great. To me, it's more about the way that they extended JDubb and extended Chet. Mm-hmm. So they were able, despite the fact that these two guys coming off of a title had the most leverage they possibly could have had, right? They easily could have gotten 30% extensions. Both are represented by Bill Duffy, one of the best agents in basketball. And both, I think, took less, like, is the reality. The fact that Chet is not getting like Rose ruled at all when he is the second favorite for Defensive Player of the Year next year. Like if he plays the full year and Victor does not play the full year, like if Victor misses 17, 18 games and Chet is able to play those games, my guess is that Chet is going to be the favorite to win Defensive Player of the Year in the NBA next year and thus would have been eligible for Rose ruled money at 30% of the cap. The fact that it is just locked in at 25% is a massive win for Oklahoma City and like could be the difference between them like having to get rid of somebody versus not having to get rid of somebody.
Mm-hmm.
Jalen Williams has already made all NBA S. He has already made an all defense team. He's already been the second best player on a title team. And whereas Paolo Banchero was able to negotiate a 30% Rose Rule extension eligible deal with the Orlando Magic.
Yeah.
JDubb, who has already done it, decided not to do it. And to me, that doesn't say anything about Bill Duffy, Justin Haynes, those guys that represent Jalen Williams. That says about what JDubb wanted.
Mm-hmm.
Because there's no way that Sam Presti says, no, I'm sorry, we're not doing that. We're not giving you the 30% max. We can't do it. I'm sorry, Jalen. You just helped lead us to a title as the second option. We can't give you the 30%. Sorry. the fact that JDubb negotiated in escalators, so it's 26% if he makes third team All NBA next season, 27% if he makes second team All NBA, and then 30% if he makes first team All NBA or wins Defensive Player of the Year, or MVP, or whatever. If he wins MVP, he's going to be first team All NBA, obviously. So it's kind of counterproductive, but regardless, they might end up in a circumstance where, like, look, JDubb's already made All NBA, but like was third team. And if guys stay healthy this year, like if Wemby stays healthy, if Jaylen Brown or something goes crazy next year, you just never know. Like there's a chance JDubb doesn't make All NBA. They might end up in a situation. Maybe Chet adds more offensively and like it becomes more of like a three-headed monster. I'm just like throwing things out there in terms of like outcomes that could occur, right?
Yep.
They might end up with Shea, JDubb, and Chet all under contract for 85% of the cap, basically, next season. And then those numbers would get lower, is the thing. Shea's wouldn't, but Chet Holmgren,
the other two would, right?
Yeah, like could be slated to essentially be at like 26% of the cap or so. And then JDubb could be slated at like, 26% of the cap, like something like that into 2028, 29. Like there's a chance that because of the way that the cap is slated, I don't know, man, like locking in your literal championship core. It's not like this is a theoretical championship core. This is a championship core that has accomplished the goal. It has accomplished the task. To get those guys under contract for, essentially, other than Shea, less than what they're worth is a massive win. And I think it's so much more important than just about anything else that happened this summer.
Yeah, I agree. I had just a couple lower just because I wasn't really like, how am I going to put a contract extension over something like that? But to your point, like this is the NBA champions getting a massive win with two of their best players locked in long-term. And I guess if you want to include SGA in this, like three players locked in long-term that can be part of a core. And the age for this group is just, it's ridiculous to think of the runway that they have in a league where, like, I remember a few years ago, we were talking about the Memphis Grizzlies and the runway that they have, and they've now traded Desmond Bane, and that like they are now a very different group and at a very different stage than they were when they were battling against the Warriors and second in the West and whatnot. Like, I don't think that OKC, with the MVP talent that they have, with the flexibility that they have financially, because I think that's an underrated part to this, like the way they line this up, and this is credit to their front office, but the way they line this up to Hartenstein's team option expires exactly when Shea's extension number hits, if I remember correctly.
That's correct. Yep.
They also obviously have the Caruso extension, which I think is a healthy deal, but fair value, good value for a guy who was just massive for what they did last year in the playoffs. And they have the fluidity to replace some of those players with the Case and Wallaces of the world. We'll see if Thomas Sorber ends up becoming a real player for them. I really liked him in the draft. I'm probably impartial in there just because I really wanted him for the Raptors. But that said, he was a guy that I really liked, and I think he fits excellently with what OKC wants to do. Chet and JDubb at those prices makes tons of sense. And like, to me, the Chet part of this is huge because there are no escalators in what he can do, right? It's 25%, basically straight 25% of the cap every single year, if I'm not mistaken, or if I read that correctly. Also, yeah, Mike Weisberg mentions Topic, also another factor in here in terms of another guy that can replenish what they can do. I think that's a huge part because, to your point, he is one of the best rim protectors in the NBA. You look at defensive field goal percentage, you look at block shots, reaction time, everything that he brought to this team defensively was so massive that it's incredible that they got that contract extension from Chet.
It really is. I think it's a huge, huge piece of them being able to have the summer that they had. I mean, also, we'll just note, like, these aren't going to get brought up the rest of the time, but like, AJ Mitchell now is locked in on like 3 million, 2.8 million, 2.8 million. Like those deals are like bizarrely like lowly guaranteed as well. Somehow. Jalen Williams, Will is locked in on 8 million for this season, 7 million for the next season, 7 million for the year after that. Aaron Wiggins obviously locked in at 7 million. Or no, I'm sorry, it's 10 million this year, 9 million the next year, 8 million the next year.
Yeah, exactly.
Like it's a descending deal. The way that they structure these deals with money up front and then they find a way to de-escalate it is really, really sharp. And then Topic obviously will be able to come in. I'll be interested to see like what they do with, like, I'd imagine that the way this is setting up is that they're probably gonna have to make a choice, not this year, not next year, but in the future on Caruso or Case and Wallace. Or like it could be Caruso, or, it could be like two of Dort, Kaysen, or Caruso, right? Maybe you get to keep two of those guys. You might have to get rid of Isaiah Joe in order to do that. So maybe it's like two of those four, and I think that Joe would be one of the obvious ones out in that case. You have your third big locked in at like a totally reasonable $7 million in J. Will. You can hopefully have a backup point guard and a backup center locked in at like $11 million here with Sorber and Topic. Their cap sheet like should be in a good position, and people have talked about them. Oh no, they only have like a certain number of years to be able to do this. I think they're more well positioned than just about anybody in the league to be able to handle their business here moving forward.
Yeah, like Lou Dort, I'm just looking at it right now. Lou Dort has $18.2 million next year, and then he has a team option for $18.2 million the year afterwards. Like, I imagine on the open market, Lou Dort makes more than that. And so they likely opt into that club option, and you're looking at him being an unrestricted free agent 2 years from now. The Hartenstein question is fair. I'm not sure they would opt into that $28.5 million team option that they have.
I feel quite confident they won't be able to do that. To be honest,
that makes sense. Yeah. So that is definitely a domino in how because Hartenstein was big for them. We just talked about the lineup flexibility, the double big lineups that they ran. Houston is similar in that realm. Like they need another guy next to Chet, unless Chet becomes a full-time five. And maybe that's part of the equation over the next couple of seasons is like, hey, we need to groom this guy to be our starting center in the long term. And now we don't need to go out and grab, a $28.5 million starting center or just center in general to back up Chet. But yeah, I like it. I like this deal a lot for them. That makes a lot of sense. But should I give you another team or another?
Go. Let's go. Number 5. You're up.
All right. So this is number 5 for me. Norman Powell for free.
This was next on my board.
Okay, cool. Norman Powell.
Actually, no, I'm sorry. I have the two deals connected here. It was second on my board, but continue.
Okay. All right. So Norman Powell for absolutely free. It was the official trade. If you want to know, it was a 3-team trade. John Collins goes to the Clippers. Norman Powell for Kevin Love and Kyle Anderson. Kyle Anderson was not going to figure into what the Heat were doing long-term. Kevin Love, great, all-time great, right? One of the best rebounders in league history. Not who he was anymore. He's just not the same guy. This is a wildly massive win for the Miami Heat. And I truthfully, I don't know what the Heat are doing overall, long-term, bigger picture, and what the goal is generally. But when you have a chance to get Norm, who is coming off the best year in his career, I mean, he was 22, 3-2 last year, shot 48% from the field, 42% from three, 80% from the free throw line, basically a 40% three-point shooter every year. To me, that just that's a ridiculous trade for them. For a team also like in the Eastern Conference, and I'm sure you guys have mentioned in the show a bunch, but there is a wide gap between the top 3, 4, maybe 5 teams in the East and the rest of the group. I don't know if Miami looks at themselves and says Norm is the difference maker, but he absolutely puts them in the conversation to be like a playoff team next year, in my opinion. Maybe I'm too high on this deal now, but just the fact that they can, again, line up flexibility, the offense and what they can provide offensively with Hero and Norm together. There is a little bit of duplication, but I think generally Hero's been more of an all player and playmaker for them as the years have progressed. And so you can have Hero be the guy with the ball and Norm playing off ball next to him. I see this as a big win for a team that needed a big win. I don't know what it means long term for them, and that's why I'm probably not as high. I maybe would have had it higher if there weren't other moves that just were more league shifting, league changing, whatever you want to call it. This isn't like a huge move generally, but getting Norm for the price that they did is just massive, you know?
So Norm Powell, I think, is an amazing fit in Miami's offense. I want to start there.
Yeah.
44% off the catch from three. Hit 52% of the 25 shots he took off of screens last year. You know, super low sample, but whatever. Hit 41% of the threes off of handoffs that he took last year, which is, you know, really important piece of the offense. You know, they can basically slot him into like a lot of the same actions that they used with Duncan Robinson and Bam Adebayo to be able to get loose, which I think is, you know, great. Obviously, just like a lights out transition 3-point shooter, great in spot up situations as a shooter. I think that like his efficiency as an overall like pick and roll playmaker with the ball, when he would like catch the ball coming up from the corner, catch the ball like coming up from the wing, and then like, you know, string out a defender, take a ball screen, you know, he's kind of an advantage that he's able to attack. I thought he was really, really, really impressive to be able to, you know, kind of get loose in those situations. I'll just kind of ask you this question, right? So a lot of scoring guards, right? You're looking at a situation where it's Tyler Hero, which you mentioned, like comfortable playing the point. You've got Terry Rozier and whatever that situation is, which who the fuck knows?
Yeah.
You've got Davion Mitchell, like not really a scoring guard, but like had real moments last season. Like I'm guessing that their starting lineup is probably going to be the three of Mitchell, Powell, and Hero. I mean,
okay.
like maybe
so
you bring.
I actually wasn't sure what their start. That was a question I was going to toss back at you. I don't know what their starting lineup is because they also have Wiggins.
Like my guess is that it's either going to be Norm Powell as the sixth man, or it's going to be Mitchell, Hero, Powell, Wiggins, Bam. Or it could be you go with the two-headed like Ware and Bam monster in the front court, Wiggins at the three, because you need the defense with these guys like on the court, obviously. And then maybe it's Mitchell and Hero. I don't know. I love them starting Davion Mitchell. I thought Mitchell was awesome. I'm sure that, you know, you got a chance to be around Davion Mitchell a decent amount last year just because he was in Toronto for a like little bit of the start of the season, obviously.
Yeah.
And like awesome defender, like, you know, I think I met him like once when he was, you know, at Baylor, but like really, really good dude to have around, like just a hard worker, super conscientious. And again, like in the playoffs, averaged 15 and 6 assists, shooting 61, 50, 42, obviously. But like, man,
the shooting was crazy.
I thought he was really good though. And I thought he was really good late in the season as well. And I love the fact that they have like a great defensive guy out there to be able to help out both Hero and Powell. Right. So like, I don't know, like to me, Mitchell like evens out their structures a little bit, both on offense and defense.
Yeah, I agree. I think Mitchell has to start. And to your point about like the character guy, like people will do the heat culture thing a lot, but he does like make sense for what they want from dudes in their organization. Just wildly hardworking, team first type of guy, and takes a lot of pride on the defensive side of the ball. You see that every time he's watching. I think like what he helped Hero do was protect him from guards attacking him in transition, protect him from guards attacking him in pick and rolls. I think there's a world in which like Mitchell, Hero, Powell can be too small for you, even if Mitchell is a good defender and a plus defender. So how does Spo maneuver? Like maybe they because they run a shit ton of zone either way. Like maybe they just lean
Yeah.
into that all the time now, and have Bam just be their backline anchor for everything they want to do. I think there's a vision for that. I like the Wiggins at the 4 lineup more than Ware, even though I can see why you would have the double big lineups. And the double big lineup actually worked really well for them last season too. I think it was a positive for them generally last year. But the Wiggins lineup gives you a little bit more 3-point shooting, more consistent, like off the catch 3-point shooting. Ware can do that too, but I think you can get more from Wiggins at that position. I want to see like how the rest of the group fits in rotation wise. Like Koljovic, very intrigued if he ends up being considered for a starting spot.
But by the way, extension eligible.
Extension eligible
right now.
Yes, right. So that plays into like, do we want to give this guy opportunity and see what he can do? Right. I think, and also
extension eligible, by the way, Norm Powell.
Yeah, that's so I have this in my notes too, where it's like, what does the number look like for contracts in 30? What is he? 32 years old right now, 33 years old. Like what does the next contract look like for Norm Powell, who is coming off of a really, really good season, who is now an expiring contract? Like, I guess I'll throw it to you. What do you think the number is for him? And does he stay in my, like I guess that's the other part to this question.
Oh, look,
trade wise, but yeah.
If I'm Norm and I can lock in 2 years, I'm locking in like regardless of where I can.
Right.
I mean, I think it's probably right around the number he's at now, but I mean, this is something that I talk about all the time, and I'm sure, I think I literally brought it up on the show that we did at Summer League. Like these deals for scoring guards who are only scoring guards, and that like Norm was good defensively when he was younger. He just doesn't really have that same juice anymore, unfortunately. Being 32 years old, it's hard for him to kind of play on both ends all the time in the way that he needs to, or maybe the way a team would like somebody to. The deals for those guys like aren't really out there right now.
Yeah.
And Cam Thomas is going through it. Malik Beasley's going to go through it, right? Like whenever he gets his thing with the gambling stuff figured out, maybe he won't get that figured out. Who knows? Gary Trent has gone through it. Another Toronto Raptors great. Like a lot of these guys, like they just don't get paid. Now, Norm Powell is like top of the market for these guys. So I would think that he will get money, but is it a little bit above the mid-level maybe? Like, is it
right?
Like if you told Norm Powell that he could lock in for, given that marketplace right now and what we know that market looks like, does he lock in for, if you offered him 18 a year? Like if you did, hey, we'll lock you in for 36 more after these 2 years.
Yeah.
I don't know if I was him, like, would I just be like, fuck, like I can go get 36 million more right now. And I don't have to worry about how I fit in Miami. I don't have to worry about like, am I coming off the bench and is that going to hurt my value? Like I'm 32 years old. I don't know, man. Like that's
it's that's fair. That's fair. And you look at every year, it seems like teams just don't have cap space, And so if he goes into next summer, and I know the Wizards have like $100 million in cap space, and that we'll see.
Why are they doing Norm Powell? What
why,
I mean?
Also, why is Norm Powell going to Washington, right? Like that's another part of this thing. It's like Miami makes a lot of sense for Norm Powell. Norm Powell makes a lot of sense for Miami. It would make sense for them to lock something down that is mutually beneficial for both of them. I also like, I don't know how you stack up the Eastern Conference. I don't know if you want to have that conversation now, but he raises their level a bit here in the Eastern Conference. I don't know how much, but I would like looking at the Boston, Indiana group, which is injury riddled, and the Toronto, Chicago, whoever else you want to throw into that category of like play-in or playoff bound, whatever. Like adding Norm Powell as a talent add to what they want to do next year and be a playoff team like that. I think that is the case. I don't know how you feel about that though.
Well, and here's the crazier piece of it is, okay, let's say that you get Norm Powell locked in on like a cheaper deal where it's like above mid-level, but not like
Yep.
crazy above mid-level, right?
Mhm.
The other guy that's extension eligible is Tyler Hero. Does this then give you real leverage in Hero negotiations to say like to Tyler, okay, you want 40 million? We're not giving you 40 million, right? Again, look at the market for scoring guards right now.
That's
You
tough.
are literally like
Yeah.
tip top of the market for that. Like you just made an all-star game, obviously. And you're coming off a year where you averaged 24, 5, and 6, shooting 47, 38, 88. I don't know.
Like, Sam, I really like what Hero did last year. Like,
yeah, I did too.
Bought in as a playmaker for this team. I think basically every year he's improved as a playmaker for them. He's not a guy that I'm going to just force feed pick and roll ball handling situations, but for the most part, like can handle the ball for you. I don't know. I would be pretty shocked if they don't try to lock in something with Tyler Hero, but at the same time, 40 million, man, that's tough. That's tough.
I mean, look, if I'm Tyler, like that's what I'm asking for. Like
yeah, absolutely. Yeah. As he should.
I
like
think I've earned that money.
Yeah.
So, and Tyler's like a little bit more like he can pass and he can do some things, but
absolutely. Yeah.
Like if I'm him, I've done it now. Like I am expecting real money. So that's a hard one. But look, they get Norm Powell, who's like a genuinely great player, for Kyle Anderson and Kevin Love. Like it's a huge win. Like these are all like future problems to solve.
Yeah.
I think what the takeaway here is that Norm Powell gives them a million more options now moving forward. And that's why he's so valuable and why this deal is so valuable. Like he just gives them so much more flexibility and optionality, and he makes them a better team this year at the end of the day.
Yeah. 100%. 100%.
Okay. I'm up at number 6, and I'll just connect these two dots because my next deal is I combined the Clippers moves. So I did Clippers depth moves. Trading Norm Powell for John Collins, replacing Norm Powell with Bradley Beal, and then I roped in the Brook Lopez deal too. So you get Brook Lopez on, I'll pull up the number right now. I believe it's a 218 with a team option, if memory serves.
Yep.
So yeah, Brook Lopez, 218 with a team option. Bradley Beal, 211 with a player option in the second year. John Collins has 26 million left. He's going to be extension eligible at some point. Maybe they can go get money. Maybe you just let him play it out and you see what it looks like. I don't blame you there. And then I'll throw in Chris Paul here as well. Like Chris Paul on a minimum, you can certainly not go wrong. I don't even know if Chris Paul is going to play every night for this team.
Yeah.
That's how deep they are. Chris Paul might be the 10th or 11th man. So the reason I like this set of moves a lot, and I think this is probably going to be like a bit controversial to have it this high, is I think that like people are way underrating how good John Collins is at this point. Like I think that what the Clippers have understood here is that there is like a real tendency for people both within basketball and outside of basketball within the media to forget about or underrate these players that were frankly making more money than what their contract or what their value was, right? John Collins is probably not a $26 million a year player, but John Collins is also coming off of a year where he averaged 19 and 8, shooting 53, 40, 85. Like that is now either the best sixth man like in the NBA or, an awesome, starting 4-man next to Ivica Zubac. Now, one thing I will say, I really like the idea of staggering Zubac and Collins minutes. I think that they can play together because Collins can knock down threes, obviously. Like he just hit, the last 2 years in Utah, 38% on 3.5 attempts per game. But I really like Collins as a screener and roller. And that's obviously where Zubac thrives. Like Zubac is so good at screening and rolling and short rolling and being able to make decisions and everything like that. That's why he's so good, right?
Mhm.
Collins gives them like a different option, right? He just gives them the pick and pop, or they'll like roll the way to the rim and like throw lobs for James Harden. Like, can you imagine?
Yeah, man.
Like, look, like
Yeah.
John Collins, he doesn't have like quite the pop that he used to when he played with Trae Young, right? Where, Trae Young, frankly, I mean, John Collins is a great player, don't get me wrong, but like Trae Young, got John Collins paid. You know what I mean? Like, really got him paid. Like, there was a 3-year stretch in Atlanta when he was 21, 22, and 23 years old, where he averaged 19 and 9, shooting 57% from the field because he just catch lobs from Trae Young all the time. I think James Harden is like the exact kind of player that actualizes John Collins as a player, because he's so good at the pick and pop, and he's so good at picking and rolling and rim running and finishing at the rim. Like, John still has some juice athletically. I'm not sitting here saying he is when he was younger, but he has real juice athletically still to be able to go up and jump. I do think that you can play Zubac and Collins off of one another. Like, you can sit one in the dunker spot. You can play one in ball screens. Like, if you wanted to, you could say like, okay, we're running a Harden Collins pick and roll. Collins is going to pick and pop. And then instead of like the lob option being Collins on the roll, we have a throwback option to Collins with Harden, or we have a lob option to Zubac in the dunker spot. Right? That offense should flow really, really well together, I think, in an exciting way. And then, oh, by the way, you bring Brook Lopez off the bench, and Brook is an elite drop coverage defender in the way that Ty Lue loves. You now have 48 minutes of elite level rim protection, because for whatever people think about Brook Lopez, right, he is still great if you can kind of camp him in the lane and allow him to just be enormous and massive. Unfortunately, because the Bucks were so bad on the perimeter defensively this past year, I think his issues got exacerbated defensively because he really struggled to be able to like get to his spots, right? Or frankly, like they'd be in, I've talked about this before, but like they'd be in like ice coverage and like wouldn't even be able to angle the guy to the sideline. And Brook would be like sitting there like, okay, I'm angling my guy to the sideline. Here we go. Like, I'm ready. I'm in ice. And then guy just beats his man to the middle. Like someone beats Torian Prince to the middle or Dame Lillard to the middle. And it's like, Brooks just sitting there, like hands up. Like, what the fuck do I do here? Like, come on, guys. Like, I can't move like that anymore. But the Clippers, Chris Dunn ain't getting beaten to the middle. Kawhi ain't getting beaten to the middle. Like, they have guys that will stop that from happening. And then you throw in Brook Lopez can space to the corner on catch and shoot threes. And you just have John Collins like straight rim running now and backup units with guys like Chris Paul, with Bogdan, like with real playmakers. I love the way that this entire scheme fits together now. And this is before we get to Bradley Beal. They have replaced Norm Powell with Bradley Beal. And look, this might be a hot take. I know what the numbers say. I think Bradley Beal is a better player than Norm Powell. I'm just going to say it. Offensively, I think he's a better player. I just think he's a more skilled, creative shot maker than what Powell even has become. And I think that you put him in the Clippers scheme versus that disastrous like Sun scheme where there wasn't a ton of playmaking. There wasn't a ton of passing out there. He had to kind of create everything for himself. Like, all due respect to Devin Booker, but like Devin is a scorer that is capable of making plays, right? James Harden is a passing like playmaker now, right? Chris Paul is a passing playmaker. Bradley Beal is going to get easier shots than what he got in Phoenix, in my opinion now. So I love the way that the Clippers depth builds upon itself. I get that they are older. I get it that they are now locked in for 2 years to this core, but that's really it. Like, they're locked in for 2 years to this core, and then they have like nobody except Zubac.
Everybody expires.
Their 2027-28 cap picture is Zubac at $21 million a year. It is Niederhauser on a team option at $3 million and Cam Christie on a team option at $2.5 million. And that is it. And you better believe following this summer where all these dudes, Bradley Beal, Chris Paul, everybody that decided to go there went there. that word is getting around that the Clippers are a pretty great place to play. I said this on the last show, whatever Beal signed, but like they are renowned league wide for having like the best like training staff, amenities, everything that you can want from an organization. Like they provide it. Like they have invested under Steve Ballmer crazy money on that side of it. Like they obviously have the new arena where people are excited to go there. Like this is going to be a destination team, and they are now set for the next 2 years. And then they'll figure it out, and they're going to be able to figure it out, I think. So I love the way that they have structured their offseason. And I think that this was brilliant kind of across the board from them.
This all started because they decided to walk away from Paul George, which is, I mean, like the trickle down to everything, right? The flexibility that they have 2 years from now, the ability to fill out their depth right now. It all starts because they decided that it was a bold move. I think you remember the conversation was, how were they going to fill in the gaps for what Paul George is as a player? And clearly it's worked out very well for them. I'm curious for a couple different things for what the Clippers do. And I agree with a lot of what you mentioned. First of all, from John Collins' perspective, it got to a point where the Jazz basically had to tank and they decided that he can't play anymore in order for them to tank. They were almost a positive team when he was on the floor. I was just looking at this on PBP stats. Okay. In 1,200 minutes, they were minus 0.5 net rating with John Collins on the floor. Okay. This is a team that
John Collins is good.
Yeah, he's good. He's a good basketball player. Okay. In these 710 minutes he was off of the floor, they were minus 16 in net rating. That's how bad they were with him off the floor. And obviously this is not a team that was winning a lot of games anyways, but that's the John Collins impact. I agree with what you said about Brook Lopez, him being able to play drop. I also think like the defensive infrastructure at the point of attack for the Clippers, even with Chris Paul, Harden, and Beal, is just going to allow Lopez to be a little bit more deep in a drop with Chris Dunn, obviously, with Kawhi, with Derek Jones Jr., with Nick Batum, those guys out in the perimeter. It'll help him a lot. The Clippers were 15 points per 100 possessions worse when Zoo was off the floor in the regular season last year. Just having two options to go to with Collins and Lopez and the optionality in the front court. I mean, this has actually kind of become a theme of this podcast that we're talking about today. Just the versatility that your front court provides for you is a prevailing idea and theme from the playoffs that we saw, especially in the Western Conference with OKC, with Houston, how Minnesota and Denver are able to address that. I think Denver getting, a backup big in Valanciunas was really big for them too. But it's important in the playoffs to have that lineup versatility, especially in your front court. And those two guys just fill in the need. I'm curious about Bradley Beal because Norm was so big for them when Kawhi was out to start the season. And he was just like, he was so good that you actually, I mean, they obviously missed Kawhi, but his absence wasn't as obvious because they had Norm as this sort of release valve for them offensively, guy who could go out and get 20 for you. If Bradley Beal can do that for you, and like he absolutely has the talent, to your point, I agree with you. He has the talent to do that. It's just about going out and doing it and how he survives on the defensive side of the ball. I think the Clippers infrastructure, again, is better for him to survive out there defensively. It's just about doing it on a consistent basis. And I think Beal will be happier with the Clippers than he was with the Suns, because I think by the end of it, it just was not a tenable situation for him in Phoenix. But yeah, I had this on my list too. Yeah, I had this on my list. I think it was like too low. I have a couple more trades up there, but it was on the list for Clippers adding depth. It's really, really good stuff. Yeah.
Give me another one. Let's go.
Okay. I feel like this is at this point, we should probably bring up this trade. It was a pretty big trade that happened. And I'm really curious to see if you feel the same way. I have it lower than maybe I originally had thought, but working through everything, the cost is a lot, and that is Desmond Bane to the Orlando Magic. Sure. So obviously the trade is Desmond Bane for Cole Anthony, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, the 16th pick in this draft.
And whose side do you have it from?
I have it from Orlando's side. I like it from Orlando's perspective. 16th pick headed to the Memphis Grizzlies. Yang Hansen ended up being that pick, by the way. So we'll see if that ends up being a factor ever.
Well, so the way to, like the way, and from the Grizzlies perspective, they moved up using 2 of those picks.
Yes.
16 and one of the future Orlando picks to be able to go up and get Cedric Howard.
Yes.
And we'll kind of talk about it from both perspectives here.
Right. Yeah. Which pick was it? They used the 2028 unprotected first, I believe. Right. Okay. So they still have a 2030 unprotected first. Memphis does from Orlando's side. They have that 2026 swap, which is very convoluted, but it's basically the worst of Washington, Orlando. I think Phoenix
is in there. Yeah.
And another, I can't remember what the other team is, but it's convoluted. They basically have another 2026 first in there. And then a 2029 first swap.
I believe that it is not. So I think that Memphis now gets the second swap there. I think that like Orlando gets the top swap of
okay.
Phoenix and Washington. I think it is. Is it Phoenix and Washington, or is it Phoenix and somebody else?
Yeah.
I'll look this up while we're talking. Okay. But Orlando still is like a very high end shot at a pick. And then like Memphis, this swap could turn into a like moving up for a lottery pick kind of thing.
Yeah.
The swap is not nothing.
So I understand that that's a lot for Desmond Bane. It's worth noting that part of that calculus was getting off of KCP's deal. So like the cost isn't exactly as it would be if it was not including KCB and it was maybe like expiring contracts and Cole Anthony to get Desmond Bane. But I like this has a chance to be costly for Orlando, but I think in terms of fit, it is perfect. It's genuinely a perfect fit. Obviously, the shooting is obvious, right? He's one of the best shooters in the league. He's joining a team that genuinely sucked historically as a three-point shooting team, was downright terrible historically as a three-point shooting team. He's great off of the catch, good pull-up shooter. I think the underrated part to this is that he is wildly improved over the last couple of seasons, probably last 3 seasons, as a ball handler. So he ran 319 pick and rolls last season for the Grizzlies. It's the most that he ran throughout his career. The year before he got hurt, because he was hurt 2 seasons ago, 3 seasons before that, it was 275. So he's like genuinely running a ton of pick and rolls for Memphis. I'm not necessarily sure if he's going to do that a lot for Orlando, but it's an option. He's going to be a ball handler next to Jalen Suggs, who is hopefully healthy. I think it provides more offensive creativity for what the Magic want to do, because that was something that was lacking as well. It felt a lot throughout the year last year where it's like, we're going to try to get Paolo Banchero working in pick and rolls, whether as the ball handler or screener. We're going to get Franz Wagner driving to the basket and attacking closeouts. And that was the bulk of their offense. Like, you now have this player in Desmond Bane can provide you with level of creativity offensively and provide Jamal Mosley with just another guy who can create for you. And that is wildly important for a team. I don't know, Zach Lowe has mentioned it a bunch, but like hasn't been bottom 20 in offensive efficiency for like 20 years in a row, something crazy like that. This group can be better offensively. Are they going to be a top 10 offensive group? I don't think so, but Bane really elevates what their ceiling can be, at least on the offensive end. So that's why I have it in this list.
So just to close the loop on that deal, Memphis ends up with the better of Orlando's 2026 first rounder and the worst of the first belonging to Phoenix and Washington. So like they get the better of their own, in Orlando's first, and then the worst of Phoenix and Washington. Okay. So the reason I didn't have this on my list for either side, honestly, is twofold. So if I was talking purely like on the court for next season, I would 1000% agree with you.
Yeah.
And I would have this like exceptionally high. I think Desmond Bane is like a massive, massive, massive lift for them in a way that like other people are not recognizing, in my opinion, at least. Dez is a genuine like dribble pass shoot guard now. Like he is extremely capable of running ball screens, like you said, on top of being just like a totally lights out 3-point shooter, and will provide space for Paulo and Franz as playmakers that they just have not had. Like point blank is the reality. Like Jalen Suggs, I love him. Like one of my favorite guys to watch in the NBA, just like point blank. A guy that gets like intermittently guarded depending on the day. Let's go with like, is he hot or is he not hot? You can kind of tell very early on in a game, right? KCP, like especially early on, was not shooting super well this year. Wendell Carter, like the dreams that we had, to quote Barry Keegan, well, there goes that dream. Shout out Banshee's been a Sharon. Like that dream is dead. It feels like Wendell Carter getting guarded from the 3-point line. Like he just doesn't, he'll try and take them, but like teams don't really care if he takes them. Anthony Black, 32% 3-point shooter at this point. Tristan Da Silva, like didn't really knock down shots. I think he will shoot at some point, but a guy that folks were like generally pretty comfortable leaving open. Jonathan Isaac, another guy that played a ton of minutes this past season, 25% shooter from 3. I think that dream is also dead at this point. So you look at what they needed, like the thing that they needed desperately was just a lights out shooter who can go off of different actions, right? Yeah. The way that they're going to be able to creatively utilize Des Bane as a shooter, like Desmond Bane's a really good screener. Like I think that's actually like an underrated skill of his. He's so strong and he's just like a brick shit house. Like he is very capable of screening and being able to like slide and pick and pop. And like, because you have to be cognizant of him, like just using his chest and like getting physical as a screener, you then have to like be cognizant of him slipping actions, and you have to be cognizant of him, getting into different, kind of sets that way, right? Like he's just a really, really sharp player. And then you can add something on the back end of that because he can handle the ball. Like, okay, we're running a primary slip here for Paulo and Franz. It's a 4-2 action. Bane slips to the top, and then on the backside, you have Franz come up, and then you run a slip for him up to the top of the key, right? Where Dez then gets a chance to like decide, okay, are we, slipping here, or are we going up to the, 3-point line with Franz, or are we just driving, getting to the rim because now there's some more space in the offense, right? Like, they just have so many different ways that I think they're going to be able to utilize Desmond Bane. That's really, really exciting. Tremendous player and a huge value add, and he fits their mentality on defense. I said at the time of this deal that I don't mind the price point, if only because I don't think that they actually could have acquired anybody that was a better player and also a better fit for their scheme than Desmond Bane. Like truly, like I think that looking at what they had at their disposal picks wise, I don't think that they could have gotten a better player than Desmond Bane for what they needed. So like maybe I should have had it listed, but ultimately the reason I didn't have it listed is that I do worry about like, is this team frankly just like good enough for being completely capped out?
Yeah.
I mean, like that's what my worry is. It's like, okay, Paulo's at 41 million. And oh, by the way, like if he plays a full season this year, I think there's a good chance he makes all NBA. Like it's champagne problems to have, obviously, but you gave him Rose Rule money. So that'd be another $9 million per year on top of it. You have Jalen Suggs already locked in at 32. You have Bane at 40 million a year in 2026-27. You have Franz Wagner at 42 million a year in 2026-27. Okay. Wendell Carter's number goes up 8 million to 18 million in 2026-27.
Yeah.
Can you figure out a way to like make the depth work? And do you have enough depth to make it work? This year, they're going to be awesome. Like I think they're very clearly a top 3 team in the East. And I think that they are like a real chance to be in the like NBA finals picture in the Eastern Conference this year. But I don't know. Like I still think they're a player or two short of the title, right? Like we don't think that they're going to be able to come out against a Western Conference team with
Yeah,
what they
no,
have right now, right?
No, I would say that basically for any East team other than maybe Cleveland, where it's like,
Mhm.
I just don't know if they have the guns to be OKC or Houston or Denver or whoever you think ends up coming out in the West. My thing with this also on top of that is the price point is fine, but we've seen teams pay a large sum of picks for players that at the time felt like perfect fits. I'm thinking of like the Mikal Bridges 5 first-round picks, and like I like that deal at the time. It still was a lot of picks, other basically you can go through examples of guys who have basically gone for 4+ picks, and every single time it felt like, well, that's a lot, that's why that's not as high for me. It's still on there because I think, to your point, Bane is a perfect fit for what they want to do on both sides of the ball. I think this is a big bet on Paolo Banchero and Franz Wagner. A huge bet on what those guys can be over the next couple of years. And frankly, like last year at different portions when they were healthy, individually, those guys played like all-stars. Individually, they played like all-NBA type of players. If they can just do it together, if they can just do it for a full healthy season, I can see this team being top in the East. And the battle of whether they end up, kind of matched up against a Western Conference team and winning, again, it comes down to France. It comes down to Paolo and how good those guys can be. Can they eventually end up being, especially Paolo with that contract, top 10 players in the NBA? That's the bet that Orlando is making right now.
So we'll stay in the Southeast Conference because my next pick is going to be the Atlanta moves where like my move here is the Nikhil sign and trade. Honestly,
right. I have it right here as well. Same spot. Yeah.
Yeah. If you make me limit it, but like we can talk about everything Atlanta did here as well. I think, Nikhil signs a deal that's 4 years and $60 million in a sign and trade, right? It is 15.1 this year. It goes down to 14.4 next year. And that's 15.1 and 15.9. So like pretty even across the board in terms of being able to like, structure that in the way that you have to structure it. Nikhil is a great player. Nikhil is an awesome player. And I want to pair this with the Luke Kennard deal as well. And just say like the Hawks get ball handling, right? Because look, like Nikhil, and I've said this like in the past, like there are some Wolves fans will say like, oh, like Nikhil played point guard for the Wolves at times this year. And it's like, not really. Like he played like 300 minutes when neither of Mike Conley nor Anthony Edwards were on the court this year. And those two guys are handling the ball. Like those two guys are playing the point when that happens. Right. So I do think though that like he has the capability of being able to play on the ball at times. Like I want another ball handler out there with him, but I wonder if they can get by in bench units with Luke Kennard and Nickeil Alexander-Walker, right? Because Luke, I think, has always been like a very sneaky, underrated ball handler who can like genuinely like pseudo play point. You love to use them off of screens. You love to do like different kind of things with them. But I mean, obviously 44% 3-point shooter for his career. I think honestly, like if you made me pick the best shooter in the NBA, just like purely off of the catch,
he's definitely up there. Yeah.
I might take Luke, right? Like 45% from 3 over the course of the last 5 years of his career, which is just completely bonkers to make 45% of 5 3-point attempts per game. He is a ridiculous shooter. You cannot play Luke with Trae Young. That will be a absolute catastrophe of a situation that will not work. But I do think you can play Luke with Nickeil Alexander-Walker off the bench, and I would expect that Nickeil comes off the bench. I would think that their starting lineup is Trae Young, Jalen Johnson, Dyson Daniels, Zach Sachet, and Kristaps. And then off the bench, you're bringing Kennard, Nikhil, Onyeka Okongwu, and then like you figure out who's the best of Kobe Buffkin, Asa Newell, maybe Krejci, maybe Moge, like guys like that, and you're kind of just figuring it out, right? But Nikhil, I think, is kind of the linchpin of it all, because the thing that they lacked beyond Dyson was like a truly great perimeter defender. You know, Ricochet is okay. Like, he's going to be really good, I think, but he was good for a rookie, right? Like, he was good for a rookie. Nikhil is like a great perimeter defender. And he gives them lineup flexibility. Like, you want to close games with both Dyson, Nikhil, and Trey because you feel like Ricochet doesn't have it that night. You got it. Like, you want to go with more of like a bruiser. Like, I'm intrigued to see if they can go like Kristaps and Onyeka lineups. Go like super big and like physical and strong, and like Onyeka can move his feet a little bit at least. If you want to play him like in against fours, like he can deal with guys like Bam Adebayo certainly in a Hawks series, right? So there are different ways that you can kind of make this work, I think. And I am very, very excited to see how the Hawks kind of mix and match their lineups. I think that the key here is that, you know, even speaking of Nikhil and Kennard, if you play Jalen Johnson with bench units with those two, you know, you can play Kennard a little bit more off the ball, especially in transition. And Kennard can just be like a monster transition sniper for you when Jalen just like collapses the defense, grabbing and going, right? Like, there are just so many different ways that they're going to be able to attack now, and they have the depth to be able to do so. This is a tough out in the playoffs, I think. Like, I thought they were going to be a tough out last year in the playoffs, potentially, if they would have gotten there. Or if they could have like really, you know, stayed fully healthy throughout the course of the year, Jalen Johnson, everything like that. But I think that they're again going to be like a really, really tough out is kind of my take, because they have the depth to be able to throw different looks at you.
I want to ask you a question now, because you just brought up playoffs. I agree, by the way. Nikhil is like right here for me as well. He absolutely has to be like, this Hawks move has to be for one of the best of the offseason. Who do you like more in the playoffs, Orlando or Atlanta? We're in July.
We're in July, so let's dig into the 2026 playoffs. I think Orlando, when fully healthy, is probably better.
Yeah.
I think Paulo is like a total like joke in the playoffs. Like, that dude is unbelievable.
His the lights numbers get brighter. Are absurd. Yeah.
Like, Paulo last season in those 5 games against Boston, 29, 8, and 4, and only shot like 44%. But again, like, he's responsible for literally everything that they have to do in the playoffs. Like, there is just nothing. There's no circumstance where he like gets any, you know, possession off at the end of the day. So I do think it's Orlando because of like the Paulo difference. But Trey's a fucking great playoff player. Like, I don't know, man. Yeah. It's
I like, the reason I say that is because I think like I would probably lean Orlando too, because of the depth, and like big wings do better than smaller guards generally in the playoffs. And so you can rely on Paulo and Frowns. But it's a conversation, I think. And I think that's a testament to what the Hawks have done in the offseason between Kennard, between Porzingis, between Nikhil. Like, they've really added some interesting pieces. And to your point about like being unstoppable, the Porzingis factor is obviously huge. Like, he has to be healthy this year, and he has to be an equation, like a part of the equation for them. They can have an unstoppable play with their drag screen actions with Trey, Onyeka, and Porzingis, or Jalen Johnson and Porzingis. Like, the optionality that they have, you know, the Pacers did like the 77 skip where Howard would skip to the second screener and they would run a little handoff. Like, imagine that, but with Trey and Porzingis and Jalen Johnson as the second screener, or the first screener in the initial action. Like, there's just so many options to what they can do offensively, that you also have the spot up shooting of Nikhil and Ricochet eventually. And, you know, Daniels is a great off ball cutter and like is just finds a way to occupy space offensively. There's a world in which this is a wildly fun offensive team if they're fully healthy. And Nikhil is a part of that equation, you know? So
yeah, like, even what if you like inverted it and you went like Jalen Johnson, bring the ball up the court in like a, double drag with Trey and Kristaps.
Yeah.
Like you can get like real fucking creative and
have
fun.
Trey pop out or have Porzingis to the basket. There's just so many options there. Like that's
or like they both like split and they go like, Trey goes to one wing, KP goes to the other wing, and then you have Dyson cut baseline, and that's your like lob option in the dunker spot.
Yeah.
Like that. Quinn's gonna have some fun this year.
Yeah.
Quinn's gonna have some real fun.
All right. I'm gonna add another Rockets piece to this. Not Kevin Durant related, and that was Dorian Finney-Smith. 4 years, $53 million. The big win here for me was the fact that the final 2 years of this contract were non-guaranteed. And so it's basically a 2-year contract worth $26 million. $26 million. Like that is an embarrassment of riches for the Rockets because he is their like 9th man, 8th man off of the bench. Like, and this is a guy who started last year for the Lakers, who were a playoff team, who honestly will be able to close in certain lineups for the Rockets generally. Shot 41% from 3 last season, generally a career 36% 3-point shooter. That's needed for Houston's offense. They needed, what Dylan Brooks provides from a off-ball wing. They've kind of filled in with Dorian Finney-Smith at a cheaper price. I just think this makes a lot of sense. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but envisioning the lineups that they can run with, honestly, no centers, with KD, Jabari Smith Jr., and Dorian Finney-Smith in their front court, or double big lineups with DFS playing the 2. Like there's a lot of options out there for what the Rockets can do, and DFS is a big part of that, like lineup flexibility again, right?
You throw out the words like embarrassment of riches. And the craziest thing about this is that so I have another Houston thing on I didn't have DFS on my top 10.
Okay.
I had getting Van Vliet for 250 and Steven Adams for 339. Like that's what's so crazy about what Houston has done this offseason and why, we should talk about it at the end of the day, because like, it's just, we can throw all this together. Like this can just be like,
it's whole
Houston brings in the olds or whatever, like is our headline here. Right. Like DFS is a really good player. Like, I wonder if people are like overrating him slightly because he just had to do so much for that Lakers team. I don't think he can guard down the lineup super well anymore. I think he's like best, to your point, guarding up the lineup now, like dealing with 5s, really good at dealing with 4s for sure. And like can body up on these like bigger wings that aren't like super shifty or anything. I think the shiftier guys can bother him a little bit, but great spot shooter from the corners. Like you can completely rely on him. And look, like, I think the Lakers like made really sharp moves. But like, I couldn't have their moves on this list because they lost him. Right.
Yeah.
And, I think they're a better team now with what they've done, but I don't know that it's drastically so that they're a better team. Right.
Well, it's like if you'd make it as a trade for the Lakers perspective, it's in comes Ayton, Laravia, Marcus Smart, out goes DFS, right? That's basically the trade.
Yeah.
And Trey Jameson and obviously those guys are important, but not as important as, I don't know. I like the Lakers offseason, but I wasn't sure if I could put them on this list. That's the only thing I was going to put there.
Right. And with DFS, like you brought up, 12.7 this year, 13.3 the year after. So it's a 226 deal with like the potential for a couple more years. Right.
Yeah.
And then it's like a 3rd year non-guarantee and it's a 4th year like mutual option, basically, where it's a player option, but also a non-guarantee. Like there are a few different ways that both sides can get out of that. I mean, I think that it makes total sense for them. To your point, being able to go small is massive, but then also the ability to go big and retain Steven Adams, I think was huge for them. Like Steven Adams is making, 14 million next season, 13 million in 2026-27, and then 11.8 million in 2028, 29, or I'm sorry, 2027, 28. It is a awesome contract for a guy that I think is still like a starting center, like caliber player in the NBA. Defensively, he was a monster in the playoffs. Like there's a real case he was there. I think there's a real case he and Fred were their two best players in the playoffs against the Warriors.
No, I agree. Yeah.
Like all due respect to Alperin, who I thought was massive as well. It was those three. Like those three were the guys that showed up in the playoffs for Houston in a significant way. I thought Amen was great in certain moments for Houston, like certain games he was great. He had a couple games where he was like so. Maybe it's those four showed up, and then outside of that, it was a little bit hit or miss for everybody else. Like Dylan Brooks, Jalen Green obviously didn't show up. Tari Eason was hit or miss. Like it was up and down at the end of the day for a lot of their guys. They retained the guys who brought them there in the playoffs though. And Fred VanVleet, like I was expecting that deal to be like 390 to 300.
Yeah.
When they signed that. Cause look, I said this at the time, if I was Brooklyn, like I would have been fucking ecstatic to bring in Fred VanVleet is like my point guard that can help my young guys develop. I can't imagine like a better, guard to put next to Cam Thomas, just in terms of steadiness, defensive, willing to fight, like everything like that. So I kind of thought he'd have a market, and it just ultimately ended up that maybe he just didn't have a market, right? So 2 for $50 for Fred VanVleet, like that's an unbelievable deal in my opinion. Like that's a fantastic contract.
It's also like
still great.
He's great, and he is going to be playing a little bit different of a role this year on the Rockets than he did last year because they have Kevin Durant, right? And I was thinking about this.
He plays more the role that like makes sense for him now.
Yeah, absolutely. Like the off-ball catch and shoot point guard. He's still going to run a ton of pick and rolls just because they still need that element. But the reason he was so massive for the Raptors in 2019, 2020, and 2021 and whatnot was because he was an off-ball player. Like he learned how to become a point guard in this league. He learned how to be a pick and roll operator. And honestly, the growth that he's made in that department in his career is actually crazy. To be a guy who can be like your main ball handler for a team that won, I don't know, what was it, like 50 plus games last year, second in the West. That's awesome for him developmentally. But now he doesn't necessarily need to be that on a consistent basis. He can play off of the ball more. He's an excellent catch and shoot player. And I think it'll allow him actually to provide a little bit more juice defensively too. So that'll, have more energy for the defensive side of the ball. Kind of makes sense. By the way, did you lump in the Jabari Smith extension in this category or is it just the Fred
I didn't. We can talk about it for sure.
How do you feel about it? Because 5 years, $122 million. I love it. I think it makes a lot of sense. It's not like it made my top 10 moves, but I do really think that it makes sense for the Rockets to lock in a guy. You mentioned like the three main players for the Rockets in the playoffs. I would probably put Jabari fourth. Like he was important to their lineup flexibility in the playoffs. And thinking forward to 2026, he probably still plays an important part into their lineup flexibility. So, yeah, I would put Jabari in there too.
I would say man ahead of him, but like I thought Jabari played well in the playoffs for sure. Yeah. Before I get to Jabari, I do just want to close the loop on Fred real quick, and then we'll talk about Jabari. So, Fred VanVleet on guarded catch and shoot attempts, according to Synergy. What do you think he shot last year?
Man, 38%.
31% on unguarded catch and shoot attempts. What do you think Fred VanVleet shot last year?
Let's put 38% on unguarded. Let's go with that.
He shot 45% on unguarded catch and shoot threes last year. So in total, your 38% number was dead on. He shot 38.7% from three, right. But there was a massive difference when he was open versus when he was not open. Right. And if you think like I do, that Amen Thompson is going to continue to grow as like this on-ball presence, and then you obviously have the gravity of Kevin Durant now, where he's going to get guarded, and you're going to have to send doubles at him occasionally. Mm-hmm. Fred VanVleet, to your point, which was dead on, he's going to get more open catch and shoot threes this year. And I think that that's really going to add to the efficiency. Rockets fans were driven crazy by the fact that, he just did not shoot it well last year at the end of the day. Like he shot 33 on jumpers off the dribble from 3, and just didn't make his unguarded or his guarded catch and shoots. But when he was unguarded and he was open, he fucking drilled them last year. There was no issues with it. You bring up the idea of Fred, like he was always like a maestro, like a, on ball point guard in college. You know what I mean? Like,
which that's true. Yeah.
Unbelievable decision maker, processor, everything like that. And, when he averaged his, career high in assists was first year in Houston, right? When he played like, as a real dynamic, ball screen operator and everything. I think that that's going to be what we see him get back to, as opposed to the, role that we saw this year, which is exactly what your point is. On the Jabari deal, like, I think Jabari is a guy that, like, I think this is a great deal for everybody, right? Let's get Jabari paid. Let's make sure that like he's going to make 9 figures in his career. I think there's definitely a way that this contract ends up being like a huge steal for Houston. It would involve Jabari learning to dribble, like just point blank. He's a one dribble and out guy right now, which is a concern. But these guys are hard to find. 6'10" guys who can shoot it and who have some defensive versatility. I think Jabari like gets a little bit overstated sometimes defensively. Like he is a decent switch defender, and there are moments where he is good off the ball. There are moments where he struggles a little bit off the ball. But again, like he played all of last season except for the playoffs at 21 years old. And I think that we often forget how young he is because he came into the NBA as like the youngest player in that draft class. Like he was 18 he was 19 for basically all of his rookie season.
Right.
And he's playing it as a teenager. Like, I think that, it was the right deal for him, given their circumstance, given what, he's going to have like a limited offensive role here moving forward. Like Kevin Durant is here now. Fred VanVleet's going to be on the ball. Amen's going to continue to take offensive usage. I think they're hoping that Reed continues to take offensive usage. Get your money now. Make sure that you lock in what you can and don't play that game, in the offseason. But if you're Houston, it's fucking impossible to find 6'10" bigs who like can theoretically play some 5 and can space the court and shoot. Like the thing I always say is every team has to have a 5-out look now, and Jabari allows you to have a 5-out look. And, I think it was a deal that made sense for everybody. It's not a top 10 deal because I think there's downside for both sides, and I think there's upside for both sides, right? But it's a deal that made sense for everybody to me.
Yeah, I agree. I didn't put it in my top 10. I was just curious where you were with it. And also, like, I can't think of a better player for Jabari Smith to learn some stuff under than Kevin Durant. Like, he's not going to become Kevin Durant, but it's just good to figure out other ways to score the basketball at that size and at that position, but
with limited numbers of dribbles, because that's what Kevin excels at too.
Yeah,
like
totally.
The other guy that like weirdly I think he can learn from is Steven Adams. Like people will probably yell at me when I say that, but like learning some of the like tricks of the trade is just a big man, like playing the 5. If our vision here is that Jabari can sometimes play as a 5-man, right? And can do some fun things. Nobody better to learn from than Steven Adams in terms of like the, dark arts of setting screens and like sealing guys underneath the rim and, doing things like that. So like, I think he's in a great spot to learn. I think you nailed that 100%. Let's go to like another team's depth moves to finish this out. I mentioned that we'd continue to talk about Denver later, and this is where we'll talk about Denver.
Okay.
Getting Bruce Brown, getting Tim Hardaway Jr., and getting Jonas Valanciunas. And then like I threw in somehow finding a way to get off of the Dario Saric money, which I thought was going to be impossible. And like you mentioned, it's absolutely connected to the Cam Johnson deal because getting off of the Michael Porter Jr. money and getting into the Cam Johnson business opened up like 13 million in space for them or so. I think it was like 13 or so, and allowed them to get outside of, the first apron. And then they could like kind of mix and match moves as they needed to. Tim Hardaway Jr. is like definitely coming off the bench for this team.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
And last year he was a starter on a team that gave the Knicks an absolute bitch of a time in the playoffs, right? Bruce Brown, I think, still has juice. It's just like he's another one of those guys that was overpaid for 2 years. So
Yeah.
he took that massive balloon contract in Indiana and then got traded to your beloved Toronto Raptors. And, you know, it's great that he has the money now, but I don't know. He didn't seem super happy like when he was playing to me. Like he didn't seem like, you know, he's a guy that like needs a specific situation to thrive.
Absolutely.
And
yeah.
I thought Indiana did a great job of like allowing that situation, playing with Halliburton, playing in like an offensive scheme that worked, but like Toronto was the worst fucking spot for him
It didn't make sense at all. No.
It just didn't make sense for him, like roster wise and what they have and from their spacing perspective and everything. So I think you get him back in Denver, play in that like, you know, small ball 4 role where he can short roll and play with Jokic and screen set for Jokic and like play on the ball with him a little bit. Like he's going to thrive there again. We know what it looks like at the end of the day. Like, and it's going to be great for him. The funny thing is about that, by the way. So if I remember correctly, I think that they offered the mid-level, and I think that they offered the mid-level, and I think LA might have offered the mid-level. That's based off of reporting. That's not based off of me knowing that, like in reporting that. So if I got that wrong, please don't aggregate that. I mean, look, he got what, 45 million for those 2 years, right? If he would have done the mid-level, it would have been like 52 or so. So he's a non-bird free agent now at the end of the year. He will have made about 48 million over the course of those 3 years. So he needs to go out and find a 5-year deal or a $5 million deal.
$5 million
Otherwise,
make it up. Yeah.
He would have just made like what he would have made on the mid-level at the end of the day, which is like a funny thing, I think, for other players to think about a little bit, where you get this massive balloon payment and maybe the grass isn't always greener on the other side, especially. And look, like he couldn't have known the way that the new collective bargaining was going to go and everything like that, where players of his situation would have maybe not always, you know, gotten paid in the way that they, you know, used to get paid. Right. So, you know, I'm not sitting here saying that he made a bad call. I'm just saying that, you know, if you're an NBA player, like, you know, yeah, you might be getting offered 20 here and 20 there, but you're definitely going to be, you know, non-bird next time. You're going to hit free agency and you might not end up like clearing the money that you want to clear. You know what I mean? So, you know, who knows, right? So, you know, regardless, I think these guys are all great fits. These guys all make sense with Denver. Jonas is their best backup center, I think, that they've had since they moved like Plumlee and Nurkic.
Yeah.
At the end of the day, like say whatever you will about Jonas. He can't guard. Like there's no way he's going to be able to play in the playoffs, but you know, that dude is still a fucking monster screen setter. He's a great rebounder. He's physical on the interior. Like he is still a beast.
Yeah, I agree. I honestly, like, the only question I have for this group, chart wise, is like how they succeed defensively, but that's probably more of a question for Denver generally. It's how this group wins on the defensive end, and there will be a little bit of like, you need to be a little creative when it comes to how they want to play on the defensive side of the ball. Like we saw the zone be successful in the playoffs. Do they lean into that more with Adelman at the helm? Is that just like a concept that he wants to run more often with this Nuggets team? Or, you know, the internal development of Peyton Watson and anybody else? Christian Brown was a very good defender for them in the postseason. Like, can he take more strides defensively for this group? I'm curious about that. That's, I guess, the other side to this, because again, Hardaway, not necessarily the greatest defender, but he's going to literally have the easiest shot selection he's probably had in his career. Maybe Luka provided him some really easy looks too. Like that was the best shot quality he had in his career. But Jokic will generate just as quality of looks for Tim Hardaway Jr. Like the open threes that he's going to get will be the most open he's been since he played with Luka. And that's going to be very, very easy for him. So I like it. I like that depth chart.
You know, he drilled 38.5% from three in that second year, or in 2023 with Luka, 35% in 2024 with Luka. Was it 37% this year with Cade? Like, don't sleep on Cade being able to create
sure.
shots too. But like the shots are just different with Jokic. I think that they tend to come like more in rhythm, frankly, for players sometimes. Like you're not just standing around, like you're playing in like a movement based offense. You're relocating, you're kind of finding different things as opposed to like standing around and, you know, trying to wait for your shot. Right. So it's a little bit different, I think. But yeah, like Hardaway is going to be great. And I just think about it this way, man. Like, you know, their starters are obviously going to be Jokic, Murray, Gordon, Cam Johnson, and Christian Brown.
Yep.
You know, I would guess that they bring Bruce Brown, Tim Hardaway Jr. as the 6th and 7th men, and then Jonas is the 8th man, like, you know, center who will play 15 minutes a night. That means that Peyton Watson is now, you know, instead of being the 8th man, he's now like the 9th or 10th man along with Julian Strawther, right? Deron Holmes like looked like he can play at Summer League at the very least.
That would be massive for them. Yeah.
You know, like there's just a lot that they have a lot of different ways to match up with you now, which is the key. Like they just have a ton of different ways to kind of make it work to me.
Yeah, I agree. Can I list off a couple honorable mentions while we're here?
Honorable mentions. Let's do it.
Okay. Jake LaRavia to the LA Lakers. I think generally underrated player, going to be pretty good for them. Works really well for what they want to do offensively and defensively. I think that people will start. Really smart people will be like, oh, wow, how did the Lakers get Jake LaRavia? Anyways, Lonzo Ball to the Cleveland Cavaliers. We'll see if he's healthy, but that was like good cost move for them. Got a little bit cheaper too.
I combined this with the Sam Merrill deal, which was 4 for 38. I think that's a great contract. And, you know, Lonzo for Okoro, I think is a great deal in general.
Yeah. Colin Sexton to Charlotte just because of the Yusuf Nurkic of it all, like how that happened.
Yeah.
Move-wise, that was just value-wise, that was shocking, you know.
In my top 15, because like the thing that Charlotte has needed more than anything is like a secondary, like backup ball handler with LaMelo when he misses games. Like I think we're at the point with LaMelo where we should expect that he's going to miss games because that's just the reality of his situation. You know, in terms of injuries. So, you know, not having a backup ball handler has just like really cratered them a lot of the time. And, you know, Colin Sexton at the very least is going to be like a real backup ball handler for them.
Yeah. Good character guy too. Like he's a winner, you know, like dog mentality type. That
battler. Yep.
Battler. Yes. Battler is a good word for that. Knicks depth chart adds with Clarkson and Yabusele. Very curious to see how Mike Brown uses those guys, but I think especially Yabusele will fit well with what they need from their front court, which is like a shooting option, big body. You know, we'll see how much juice he has for them defensively. I don't imagine a ton. Truthfully, like the defensive questions are there for both him and Clarkson, but that was another one.
Yeah.
And then the Lakers depth chart moves with Ayton and, you know, Marcus Smart and that, but yeah, that's all I got.
I loved it. I also threw the Wizards getting Cam Whitmore on this list because I'm who I am and I refuse to give up on Cam Whitmore entirely, even though like I have my questions at this point about him. I'm dying laughing at this comment. We had Sexland in Cleveland and now we have SexCon in Charlotte.
Nice. Yeah. San Diego Comic-Con and SexCon in Charlotte. So it's
I almost see like you took it as a convention. I took it as like this is like a con that the Charlotte Hornets are playing on people involving sex. Like this is fantastic. Okay. So have you watched any good movies? Before we get out of here, I will give you the floor. Have you watched any good movies now that the offseason is done?
You know, I was wondering if you were going to bring up the movie stuff at any point in time, just for the sake of it. I haven't watched anything great, truthfully, like that I want to like I've been in on the superhero stuff over the last couple weeks with Superman and Fantastic Four. Good movies if you like the genre, you know. I'm not going to say they blow people away if you are tired of the superhero genre. That's anything you did watch anything recently?
Superman kind of blew me away a little bit.
Hell yeah. Okay. All right. Lock it in.
So I can't remember and Andrew and I are going to talk about this. We're going to do like a longer movie pod at some point.
I would
coming up
like
here.
to be called for that. Just putting that out.
I will
there.
call you. So for people who don't know, S has like an acting background as well. So like, you know, big time movie guy as well.
Yes, not big time actor, but yes, big time movie guy.
Big time movie guy. We will call you. We'll call in for S's movie takes. I liked Superman from a. So I didn't. The only thing I didn't like with Superman was like the goopy like pocket universe stuff visually.
The pixel stuff they did with that. Yeah.
But what I liked about Superman was James Gunn like very clearly brought a vision to it, where I can't remember a superhero movie that was trying to do as much as Superman did. Like Superman really, and we'll talk about this when we do like the more in-depth movie stuff, because I know you got to go, but like to rope in a lot of the like it's very clearly like an allegory for like Israel Palestine, right? Yeah. With the Jar and Poor stuff, it is very clearly like a take on like oligarchical power. Lex Luthor is in so many ways like always that, right? And just the character in general has always been that, but the way that they utilized it within a modern construct I thought was really interesting. And even more just for like an entertainment perspective, I mean, they fucking nailed the casting. Like,
yeah, the casting was awesome. Yes. Yeah, they nailed that.
Across the board. Like, Corin Sweat is a fantastic Superman. Like, I liked him and We Own This City. Like, I've liked him. Like, I liked him in Twisters. Like, I've liked him in what I've seen before, but like, I didn't know what that was. Like, I didn't know how
Nick Holt as Lex Luthor too. It's like, he is
perfect.
So good. Just incredible as the character. Smart, calculated, cold. The way that he approached the choices, it was all there. It was so good.
What I think Nick Holt plays so well is that like faux confidence and false bravado, where underneath there's always this like pathetic energy, kind of. What I mean?
Like inferiority. He has an inferiority complex that he can't get over, but it relays in characters in a weird way. Yeah, I agree.
1,000%. Like The Menu is a great example of this, right? Yep. Like he plays that role so well. Like that is such an interesting take on Lex to me. And then Brosnahan was like throwing like 1,000 mile an hour in that movie. Like she is just one of the greats. I'm a massive Rachel Brosnahan fan. She is like probably the best on screen Lois Lane that I've seen. Just
she was great. The casting in general was just perfect. Like Guy Gardner also with
Fillion is great.
Being Guy Gardner was great. Mr. Terrific was great. Like the ensemble that they had was really well done. Like to your point about the world building, this was ambitious in the fact that it was like, all right, man, superheroes have existed for a really long time. This is the world that we live in. This is the everyday struggle for all of these superheroes, but also the world, the regular people and what they deal with. And welcome. This is the story that we're working with. That to me is really ambitious, and James Gunn does a really good job of doing that. He's done it with Guardians of the Galaxy with 3 pretty good, awesome movies. The second one isn't as great, but 1 and 3 were like very, very good to me. This gives me hope for the DC side of things to see how they build out the rest of the universe, because that's all you needed to do from this movie is set the tone for everything else. And now we know, like, okay, if this is the way that they're building, there's some promise to what they want to do. Can't believe I'm breaking it down like it's a team, but yeah, James Gunn building out a good roster.
Hey, I mean, it's not dissimilar. You know what I mean? Like it's really not. I mean, you're trying to build, you have to figure out what you're going to do with Batman, right? Like, that's where I'm most interested in. Like, it feels like they're going to keep the Pattinson, Matt Reeves, different. Like, Batman universe a little bit different, which is cool. I loved it. I thought it was so good.
Have you watched Fantastic Four yet?
Went to see it 2 nights ago.
Okay.
I liked it. It's not nearly as ambitious as Superman is.
Right.
It is just like a Marvel, let's get the players on the deck a little bit kind of movie. It worked for me. Like it was totally fine. I was talking about this with Andrew earlier. Like I liked it. I didn't like come away blown away with it. I thought that it like just visually looked amazing. Was again my take. Like both of these movies, Superman with the colors outside of the pocket universe, and Fantastic Four with
the space scenes were incredible for me. I love those Fantastic Four.
See, like I love the Fantastic Four. Like I literally like have read like probably 50 Fantastic Four comics like in the last year or so, and I don't know if like I enjoy the Fantastic Four space stuff as much as
the grounded,
the grounded, we're in the futuristic 60s universe that's kind of cool. And I don't know what it was. Like it didn't totally work for me.
So I would say like for F4, that was another movie that nailed the casting for me, which again, like that's all I kind of needed. I know the story was okay. It was good. It sufficed, but to me, the casting was great. Like Reed Richards, Pedro Pascal, Sue Storm, Vanessa Kirby. They nailed the family elements really well, better than any other F4 movie that I've seen. I think I would say so.
Totally agree. Like I think that like clearly they screen tested all 4 of these people together, and they 100%. Knew that they had like amazing chemistry, right? I had like character quibbles. Like the Reed Richards character can be boring. Like is the like it's just the reality of like Reed Richards on some level, right?
That's the struggle of like putting him on screen. Yeah, for sure.
Right. And like I think that I almost would wish that they would feed into like more his like confidence and like always thinks he's right, like no matter what kind of stuff, as opposed to the calm, like level-headed Pedro Pascal performance. But like he can do that, and like we could very easily see that in the next movie. You know what I mean? The thing that bothered me the most from a writing perspective is like where I like the thing when he is, and this isn't Ebon Moss-Backrack, this is the way that it's written. I felt like they just made the Thing like happy to be the Thing, when like in the comics it's like, no, the Thing is like not happy about the fact that he looks different than everybody. You know what I mean? Like he's disappointed in that. And like again, that's something you can explore in a future movie, but I don't know, like I never even got like a semblance of that. You know what I mean? So
I think the thing that they struggled with was that they cut out a lot of this movie. There was like, you could tell there was a solid 20-30 minutes of this movie that they cut out. And a lot of that was the Thing. They had another villain that was incorporated, which John Malkovich was playing, that they did not put in at all. They cut out a lot, get it down to 2 hours or whatever it was. But yeah, I agree. Honestly, someone said F1 was just long. If it was like 15 minutes longer, it might have been a better movie. But
it was in that like weird space, where it was like too long, but like not long enough. We got to get you out of here. Tell the people where they can find your work. Tell the people what's going on. We'll bring you back for when Andrew and I talk about movies.
Yes, please do. At Just Baraheni on Twitter, if you guys want to go follow. We host the NBA Daily podcast over at The Athletic with myself, Dave Dufour, Zia, Andrew Schlecht, Alex Spears do the Saturday Slam and Jam, which you frequent. But yeah, appreciate you, man. Thank you for having me on as always, man.
We will do this again very soon. I appreciate you immensely for coming on and spending some time with me. We will be back on Thursday. I'm bringing on Adam Finkelstein, a good friend of the show, to talk about U19s. And we're going to talk about like some of the stuff we saw from the guys who played there. I'm starting to do some breakdowns, which will get released at a later date. Like they're not anywhere near getting released now, but those will come out at a certain point. we will be back on Thursday. So
Nice.
until next time, we'll talk soon.